Hey, good morning, and thank you for having me. I appreciate that, and it was a good breakfast. I thank the girls in the kitchen. Compliments to the chefs, that's for sure. No question about it. So, October is Fire Prevention Month, so next week is Fire Prevention Week, and this year's theme is escape plans. Having an escape when your smoke alarms go off. And having a meeting place, because once we get there, if you can tell us everybody's out of your home in the event of a fire, it makes things a lot easier for us. And if not, then a location of where, a loved one might be last seen also would help us as well. So, and then, as far as I always say, regardless of the theme of fire prevention, we're always going to test our smoke alarms once a month. When we change the clocks next month, we should change our batteries. It's recommended. And keep this in mind with your smoke alarms. And we're finding this a lot in town, is your smoke alarms are good for 10 years, per the manufacturer recommendations. And when you pull them down, there's a date on them, on the back stamp. And when you test them once a month, which they recommend you do, and we also recommend that you do, you're testing the power, whether if it's hardwired, you're testing to make sure they all go off. If it's the battery, make sure the battery's still good. So those are the things, but you want to be cognizant of those dates. Same thing with your carbon monoxide alarms. They're good for if it's a standalone, and this is where the manufacturers, it kind of gets a little confusing for people at times. And I don't know the answer, to be honest with you. Carbon monoxide detector alarm, single detection is good for 5 years. We don't recommend the plug-ins because reason being is when you lose power, you lose the detection. We recommend if you're going to use a plug-in, make sure you have a battery backup. So that way is when you lose your power, you have that detection. Yes, sir.
Is the hardwired vulnerable like a plug-in?
No, because the hard wires have a battery backup.
Oh,
yeah.
So that's built in.
Right. It's got the battery. Right. So even if you have a hardwired system, you should be pulling them down and checking your battery, changing your batteries.
Inevitably, 1 o'clock in the morning, November, December.
Yeah, you're gonna get the beep, beep, and yeah.
I was wondering what's the best way to test them? Push the button or burning the toast?
Pushing the button. So, detectors are important. So like with the combination detectors, you pay a little more for them, but they're cheaper because you're not buying two. So
that's fire
and carbon monoxide. Yeah. So. Again, the manufacturer said about every 7 years, 8 years, you should change those out. Mm-hmm. And the standalone smoke alarms every 10 years. So, but like I said, all these detectors have dates on them. Mm-hmm. So as you pull them down, you can look and see the stamp. When we go into a home and we see, detectors are going off, we don't know why. You know what? If I pull one down, and I look at it and there's no date, I know it's well over 10 years old. Yeah. I can just tell by how they're designed, because the new ones are a lot differently designed than the older ones. So you can kind of pick out right away that, you need to change these out. So
how long is the combos good for?
About 7 to 8 years. They say. Yeah, 7 to 8 years, okay. Give or take. Mm-hmm. So and again, just you got to keep that in the back of your mind, because even though you're testing the power, not necessarily is it going to be sharp when it picks up that carbon's coming through the sensing unit. Okay, so because there's two types of detectors out there. There's the photoelectric and there's the ionization detectors. The photoelectric detector is like inside that sensing unit is like the ray of lights. So when the carbon from the smoke comes through the sensing unit, it breaks the beam. It sets the detector off. The ionization is kind of like when the carbon comes through, It's kind of like the old Pac-Man game. It starts eating up the ions, then it sets it off. Obviously, we recommend more photoelectric than the ionization, because photoelectric will last, where the ions lose their strength over time. So, but that's fire prevention. And Charlie, you got something?
We called the fire department up. Will they send somebody out to do all of?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I'll touch on that because basically, so that's fire prevention. You know, weeks coming. This is our month. Week is, next week. Just keep this in mind too. Is you got the holidays coming. People get crazy with their, Christmas trees with the electricity. Running cords all over the house for decorations. You got to keep that in mind, and you shouldn't be using extension cords as your main source of power for an appliance. And whether it be a TV, whether it be the coffee maker, microwaves. We've seen that many a times. Holiday season, we're getting into the cooking. With Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, and I say this all the time. As we get older, we start losing our mobility and our strength. And when you don't, and the message I have, don't be afraid to ask for help, or have your young families as they're coming up do some of this, take some of these responsibilities that families that we've all had through the years, hosting the dinners and whatnot. Because if you think about it, over time we lose our strength. So when you're reaching over stoves, you're losing that strength because now you're relying on your arms, and you don't want to put a hot dish close to you because you're going to get burnt. So especially with loose clothing, that's another thing is with the sweaters when they drop down, you want to keep that, something tight. So because that especially if you're using, whether you're using a gas stove to cook or an electric stove, still there's a heat transfer there that could just, it doesn't take much. Okay, or even with the burns, with the boiling pots as well. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you, whether it be your wife or even yourself, cooking is, don't be afraid to ask for help.
So those kind of burners, whether electric or gas, they can ignite.
Yeah. Yep, if you get them close enough, yeah, absolutely. But, so just keep those in the back of your mind. And then the other thing too is we're coming up on the cold season. I was just watching the weather this morning. I guess Saturday morning, it's gonna be in the 30s when we wake up. So, talk about frost.
You better cover those gardens.
Yeah, cover the gardens.
Good thing you mentioned.
Yeah, and but I look at it from a standpoint, people with wood stoves and fireplaces, you should clean those and make sure they're properly operating before you use them. You don't want us coming there, and basically putting the fire out and doing some type of cleaning to them. So you should have them inspected every year before you use them. And you should, when they say, inspected, cleaned, make sure it's operating properly. It's, it's a great source of heat, an alternative, and it's pretty cheap. But at the end of the day, is it won't be cheap if you've used it and constantly use it, because you got to remember the heat inside like a chimney, it breaks down the liner over time. So these things have to be relined every so often. Same thing with the wood stoves; they get plugged. Chimneys get plugged, right? Because especially with the chimneys, the critters come in. They build their nests and stuff, and they sit on the shelves and they start building, and those go up like that. So, okay, just keep that in mind. But that's kind of like the fire safety. If you guys have any questions, I got more stuff too. So,
Hard of hearing alarms. I've got someone I'm concerned about.
yes, they do make alarms for visually impaired, and there's a residence on Hampshire Lane that has an alarm system because the resident.
That's visually, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about hard of hearing.
Hearing impaired.
Hearing impaired.
Yeah, no, they
Okay.
have the alarms that flash as well.
Okay,
for the people with deficit in hearing, because there is a resident in town on Hampshire Lane that has that system, because we went there in 531 for a fire. It extended from a chimney into the house. We got it quick, but she had, she's hearing impaired. So they are out there.
They have like a strobe light
Yep.
on them or something?
Yes, they do. Yep. So that's the only one. That's the only resident I know of that has that type of system in the house. So I don't know if there's anybody else in town, but there are out there. And any assistance that we can offer for any type of disabilities, just call the fire station and we'll send somebody out, or we'll research it and we'll get the answers for you as far as that goes. But touching on the fire department, we July 1st, with the support of the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, we hired 4 full-time firefighters, the first 4. So there's 5 of us. Right now they're on days, and we're going to be spreading them out 7 days a week. But I have a fire prevention guy who's dedicated for fire prevention. So if there's any questions, whether it be with smoke alarms, fire codes, I have a guy that's dedicated to that, that's there regularly. With the staffing model we had, and plus I have, let me touch on that. Plus we have our EMS, we have a full-time EMS coordinator. It's a full-time firefighter. She is a firefighter EMT, but also has a collateral duty of being our EMS coordinator. And I got a couple of officers on duty as well. So in the event I am not available, I'm tied up at a meeting or whatever, on vacation, that I have an officer on duty. Because when you look at the staffing models of the on-call fire department, you never know who you're gonna get and when you're gonna get. And our services, as it was said, you know what? The question is why does it cost a lot of money to run a fire department when there's no fires? But there's other things going on. As an example, I've been in today, this month, I'll have 33 years on full-time. And April was 36. I've started my 36th year in the fire service. But this month I started October 15th, 1986 as a career firefighter where I came from. So on October 3rd today, I started in the I started originally in the old Ashton Fire District in the town of Cumberland, which was broken up into autonomous fire districts. When I started, there was 5 of them. When I went to North Cumberland, in October 3rd, 1988, 0800 hours, I walked in as, reporting for duty as a career firefighter for that fire district, and I spent the majority of my career before we merged 4 of the districts, because one of them merged back in the early 90s, 2 of them that became 1. So this month, to me, is important in my career because, a lot of good things happen for me.
Anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. So, but when you try to manage on-call departments, part-timers per diem, it's a shuffling of the deck a lot of times, because you have these guys coming in this day, members, and the next day it's a totally different crew. Well, now we're going to have some consistency, and you know what? People don't have the time that you gentlemen, when you were growing up and coming up through your 20s, 30s, 40s, the time that you had, the volunteerism, it's going away. Because people are being pulled in so many places. I got 3 or 4 members that coach in soccer, baseball. They were coaching baseball over the spring. It's great. Because they got small kids, they want to be involved in all that. So their careers are pulling them, their families pulling them. Oh, by the way, now I'm pulling them. So they're going in a lot of different directions. So, and then you have the qualifications and the requirements. Years ago, when the EMS was not even thought of in the fire service. Well, it's a big part of the fire service now. And this summer, I sent the 4 career members, made the class in the town, plus myself. I went the following month for active shooter training. So then 2 weeks ago, I sent one of the full-timers to Marblehead for a week to do the trainer. So he's going to come back and train the department on an active shooter response, working with the police chief on a policy. So that way there is this, in the event God forbid, if we ever have any event like that in this town, we're prepared to respond. And I never thought in my wildest dreams I would ever even be involved in or even thought of buying bulletproof vests and helmets. So so the service is changing, our society is changing, so, and as we go into a new decade, in a few months, 5 years from now, I believe the fire department's gonna look a lot different than what it does today. It has to, because we're evolving and we're changing. The department started changing the first day that the full-time, my predecessor was the first full-time chief. When you walk through the door, that changed the department. When part-time per diem staffing was put in place, that changed the department. Because prior to that, it was on call. Whistle blew, everybody came running. Well, now you have people there. It changed again when the ambulances went online. That's a whole nother dimension of the fire service, because now you're not just responding and, and somebody else is doing the training. You're seeing it from the start to the finish, to the ER. And there's a whole other bunch of mandates and licenses that goes along with this stuff to keep these things on the road. And it changed again when you brought somebody in from the outside, not even from the state. And that was me. And now it's changed again now that we have full-timers on. It's always going to be, in my mind, a career, combination department. There's always going to be a place for a call firefighter. There's always going to be a place for the part-time, and to supplement the full-time staff. It's always going to be, because if we were to ever try to put a full-time fire department in place, the cost, the taxpayers wouldn't be able to afford it. On top of that is, if we did do that, we wouldn't have the proper staffing that we should have. So we would be not operating as safely as we could. So there's always going to be the combination model is the balance of using cost-effective versus, just trying to do it all at once. So over time, someday I won't see it, but maybe my guy who replaces me when I retire, that might be his challenge, because just people don't have the time. We're asking somebody to give up basically, as I say, a year of their life to become a firefighter. Go get your EMT license. There's a semester at college, 2 nights a week. And then the fire academy. There's 16 more weeks, 2 nights a week, in a Saturday or a Sunday. And in that schedule, that program, there's either 1 or 2 weekends where you go both days. So if you take somebody working full-time, has a family at home, that's a big demand on them. They need the support at home to do this going forward. So yeah, we're evolving, we're changing, and trying to keep up with the demands of the service, because the fire department is there's more to it than putting the fires out. There's the program, the fire protection program. We have our senior safe program. We have our safe program. We have a whole EMS dynamic, which is a division of its own self within the fire department. These take up a lot of demands, ensuring that all the buildings in town meet fire code, all the businesses. I mean, there's a couple of hundred buildings in this town that get inspected every year, and then we got to do the follow-ups. As an example, we get the licenses coming up that the board is going to vote on to approve, but part of their process is ensuring that we have gone in and done the fire code inspection to make sure these businesses are up to code before the board will issue the license, the liquor license for the year. So these are the things. And then you've got the ongoing training, because over 70% of this job is being ready to go. You never hope to have to go to somebody's house to have, for a fire. It's going to happen. Thank God it doesn't happen that often. If you look at our calls are up, but our fires are down. Where you folks, when you were on the fire department years ago, your calls, you didn't have a lot of calls, but when you had them, you had good calls, you had fires, and now it's kind of reversed that. And God only knows what the fire department is going to look like. And I think you're going to start seeing a component of the fire service is the technical aspect of it. The hazmat response. You know, we have a regional hazmat team that we call in, but I think some of that potentially could be passed on to the local departments. So then we gotta make sure, you know, we're trained to a, you know, an ID and recognition level, but do I have to eventually look at technicians on the job, hazmat technicians? I don't know, you know, plus technical rescue, high angle, low angle, you know, those are the things that are in the back of my mind. You know, again, we have a team. One of my full-time members is part of the tech rescue team for the county. But if the funding dries up, that's all gonna get pushed on to the locals. So that's gonna be a whole nother different dynamic that eventually that you could end up seeing. So, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No. I had only a quick on the firearm issue. I'm sure they got past the point of teaching you how to duck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I would imagine that it's, you know, you have to take action, but it pretty much remains within your group.
Yes.
You know, so
Yep.
it's much more, even though you're taking action, it's much more defensive.
Yep.
Like you talked about, bulletproof helmets,
Yeah,
and
the-
vests and that
yep.
kind of thing, to try to keep you on your feet
Mhm.
and not get killed or maimed
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean, it's tough enough when you have to deal with a building, you know.
Yep.
The fire seems to have a life of its own.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and it wants to continue consuming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, that's bad enough.
Yep.
Yeah, so, yeah, and there are people out there who want to hurt you.
Yeah, oh, no question about it. Like, when we started looking into bulletproof vests, I haven't bought them yet because I didn't realize that there are different plates. I just figured you put a bulletproof vest on, you know, oh, no. This plate will stop this type. This plate,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I've been working with Chief Cudmore,
Yeah.
and he's getting me some information. I want to get the right ones, you know. So again, because this is a coordinated response. You know, when you look at this from a standpoint is, you know, that's a police action until the place catches on fire. And then it becomes a fire department issue. It's no different with a bomb scare of any type in a building. It's a police response. You know, but you know, God forbid if the building does explode or a bomb goes off in the building, you have to worry about that secondary, so you don't run in right away, you know, the secondary device, but it now becomes a fire department, you know, response. So, yeah, you're seeing.
The line is there,
Right.
it's semi-permeable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Between the two
Yep.
departments.
As I say, is we're partners in public safety.
Yeah.
Our goal is to keep the public safe. There's two disciplines, fire and police.
Yeah.
Fire EMS and then the police side of it. Their role is totally different than ours, but at the end of the day, we share a common theme and a common goal, protecting surf.
And you complement.
Right, exactly. Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And one thing about the small communities is that, and I will tell you from experience, that my 4 years is Friday.
Oh.
I've been the chief here
Well,
for 4 years. Thank you.
congratulations, and
Yep.
thank you.
No, thank you. No, thank you for giving me.
Okay,
No,
sign that check.
well, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's one of the gentlemen that gave me that opportunity. Yeah. Yeah, it's a coordinated response. It's a partnership, you
Well,
know. And not to interrupt you.
no.
But it's a
Go.
partnership between fire and police, but also as a partnership between the Board of Selectmen and the chiefs, and the FinCom and the chiefs, because, you know, it's easy for me to ask for everything and want, but wants versus needs. And we're more into this is what we need,
Yeah.
not what we would like, you know?
Sure.
So, from that standpoint. So it is a partnership, and it goes, a lot of people don't realize it goes beyond,
Most of it goes
Yeah,
back to the town's.
exactly,
town meeting
absolutely.
to
Yep, absolutely. Yep,
One of the operative words is concert. It has
Yep.
to be in concert.
yep, absolutely.
And, yeah, and so we're all part of that.
Yep,
Oh, and a very small but a very important piece of safety, which probably, hopefully, would only fall into the prevention aspect,
mm-hmm,
is learning how to install your grandchild's car seat.
we do offer that, yes.
Well, she did a great job. I'm
Yes.
trying to remember her name.
Yep. Donna Robin.
Yes.
Yep, she's in the next, she works at the preschool as a teaching assistant.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Yes.
Donna is a godsend. She
Yep.
not only does the car seat installs, she writes the grant for the SAFE program and senior SAFE program.
Mm-hmm.
She also is does a lot of administrative duties for me.
Mm-hmm.
She was instrumental. We ended up getting a grant through Lieutenant Governor's office
Uh-huh.
a couple of years ago, and we
I'm
went.
glad you didn't say Attorney General, but go ahead. That's loaded.
Oh, boy.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, that's okay. And
Lieutenant Governor.
yeah, we went to the fire. It's IMC, Information Management Concepts.
Uh-huh.
PD uses the police module. We went to the fire module. We transitioned into that with the grant money. And the reason being is so we could share information. And Donna was the one that, spearheaded the implementation, working with Sergeant DeFio on the police side.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from a different program, changing programs. And for the most part, it was a fairly smooth transition. Why? And I believe part of it, a good part of it was Donna took the lead on it. She handled it. She made sure, very detail oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So she's very good, and she's been trained in that.
Well, she's got a gift for it, too.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
That's kind of who
Yep.
she is.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
so that's a great,
yep.
It's a great gift and
Yeah.
asset for
for the department.
all of us, yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, but the car seats are important. No question about it.
I find that perhaps a good mix. Now, you mentioned, most of your department is made up of call people.
Yep.
What type of mix of people do you get that do that? Now, here's one that works here at the preschool, which I imagine all of her training there is a good mix
Yep.
for that individual at that
Yep.
job. What other types of mix
Well,
perhaps do you get of people that take the time to do this for us?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, it's the community as a whole. I have guys with a financial background, security background, sales, which is good for marketing, as we talk about recruitment and retention. Just trying to think what else.
We used to have some that were also looking to be,
Career,
looking to
yep.
be career
Yeah, I
police
have-
officers or fire
Yeah,
department.
right. I'm losing one to Nashua. This, right now, we have 2 former members who are in Lexington. Nashua, Marlboro. Guys that came on the fire department as young guys, and if they're still young, they're in their 20s, have moved on to bigger departments.
Many that are
Yep.
in the school department.
Yeah, I've got 2 in the
I see
school.
that as kind of a good
Yep.
mix, of
Yep.
a place to perhaps recruit, but I'm not.
Well, it was years ago, and I think one thing we've started talking about is getting the Explorer program back up and running.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
again,
our son was part of
it takes people willing to do it, willing to invest the time in it.
Mhm.
Not just say, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and the kids show up and they look at each other and say, okay, now what are we gonna do? It's gonna be a coordinated program, for it to succeed. So, and use it as like a feeder system, just like the call system is a feeder system. That's how I started out, as a call firefighter, April of 1983. But how did I get on? My father. My dad was a call firefighter, then eventually in his early 40s, when where I came from in Cumberland, where they started expanding more from just having full-time help on during the daytime, a couple of guys, to now they're going 24 and using the call firefighters. So he came from a feeder system, just like I came from a feeder system. So when you look at that, and that's kind of what I see here, but going out, I look at kind of Georgetown, and even our area departments is where I came from 30 years ago. So just kind of slowly but surely, because we ran into the same problem. Couldn't get the call firefighters anymore. People didn't have the time. Okay, well, we're gonna hire part-timers. Well, we can't fill the part-time shifts. You gotta fill it with somebody,
Yeah.
you know, because if you don't staff the station, you're going backwards. You know, because nowadays is people, you know, and what I look at is for a community of almost 9,000, this is a busy little community. Why? There's a lot of commuter traffic coming through this town.
Oh.
And we
Yeah.
could spend an hour talking about traffic in town.
97.
Exactly, 133, but you know, when they see that building and they need help, they're coming up that ramp, you know, up that driveway looking for help, you know, and so it's important that we're all there, you know. I mean, granted, if we're out on a call, that's, you know, it's the crapshoot, but for the most part, there's somebody in the building. And, you know, as we look at it going forward, you know, the demands of the service are just gonna constantly just increase, you know, and we're gonna we work closely with our mutual aid partners, and we're gonna continue to work even more closely with our mutual aid partners.
So you talk about other communities?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the
So-
people
So
around,
the inter
Yeah.
versus the
Yep.
intra.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess you can't do as well with the inter unless you've got the intra really addressed and so forth,
Yeah.
such as both police and the fire
Yep.
departments.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
Yep.
the emergency services.
Yeah, it's a system.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
system within, but it's also an outer system with our mutual aid partners as well.
Mhm.
You know, and having good relationships with these folks, you know, and when we need them, they're there for us and vice versa,
Yeah.
you know.
Those dynamics are required,
Yep.
and they need to be exercised and kept strong,
Mhm.
not strengthened.
Oh, absolutely,
Further,
yeah, clearly, because of the fact is that we can't do this job alone.
Mhm.
Just the standards that we're required
Mhm.
to meet, you know, for an incident, you know, you need more help. So,
Well-
so that's why you're seeing these, you know, more trucks coming into the scene, you know, from Newbury, from Raleigh, from Groveland, from Boxford, and you know what? And if you go beyond that, then you're looking at Haverhill, West Newbury,
Yeah.
Topsfield, and so on and so forth. If you just look at like the Lawrence, you know, the gas explosions a little over a year ago. I mean, I sent an engine and a ladder myself to, you know, originally the engine went down to North Andover and then got relocated over to Lawrence. The ladder truck and myself ended up on Brookfield Street in Lawrence, fighting a fire with totally mutual aid companies that you'd never even think about working with in, you know, in your lifetime, you know, in fire service career. But that just goes to show you taxiing, because they all kind of use the same run cards, the 10-alarm run cards, so they're pulling for the same mutual aid, and they're all pulling from the same one. They all needed it in their own respective communities. So that's why you saw a lot of people, you know, the New Hampshire.
Well, who backs up the backup?
Right. Well, that's why we had that 10-alarm run card, and you know, so if I go down, if God forbid if we ever had a 9th alarm fire, I'm pulling companies from afar just to come in for station coverage, and you look at, hopefully never, but it's there. It's a system in place that we utilize throughout the county, you know, for that, so we ensure that we have station coverage and we have more help coming, instead of just putting the open invitation over the county, send help, because then the way it's designed, the card system is, I'll send an engine somewhere, but I still gotta maintain coverage in this town, because that's my priority, you know, and we were able to, with our staffing, to pull and send an engine and a ladder and myself down to that area to assist in, you know, something major going on. But if I didn't have the staffing, well, if I only had one engine, it wasn't going.
Well,
you know?
when you leave,
Mhm.
report to another community, you yourself, you need to have somebody who can take on your role as you would do at the station.
Yep.
Yeah, so-
Yep, yeah, it's, and that's why I have a command staff, and also officers to assume those responsibilities, for temporarily. And it's more so the operational end of it, being out on the street, to that. Just like when all those things were going on down in that whole region, there were people, deputies and, district chiefs that were assuming command of things on behalf of the chiefs of their departments, just for that reason. So, no, it was quite the show.
So, it's quite involved, and it's being met, the requirements, the demands, they're being met,
Mm-hmm.
and they're continuing to not just grow, but also expand in terms of responsibilities for roles
Yep.
by staff.
Yeah, no question about it.
That's the evolving
Yep,
that you speak about.
yep,
And yeah, it's a positive feedback system. If something happens, a change,
mm-hmm,
like you're a guy not from Georgetown,
right.
so your department takes on a little bit of a
Yeah,
shift.
I bring a whole different mindset.
Yeah.
One of the mindsets that I brought to the table was automatic aid instead of mutual aid. We used it in Cumberland, but I worked in an autonomous fire district within a community, and there was 3 other autonomous fire districts. But when we had a fire in Cumberland, we were all there.
Now,
So-
Cumberland is located where?
Northeastern corner of the state. We bordered North Attleboro.
Adams,
No,
Stay low.
Rhode Island.
Rhode
Island.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we
I went to
bordered.
the opposite direction.
Yes.
Went west.
We boarded North Attleboro. We did a lot of work with North Attleboro Fire, Plainville and Renton. So I
So it's
in that-
Massachusetts?
no, Cumberland, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island,
Yeah.
so they just like over the line a
Yeah,
little bit?
yeah, from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that, and but down there we used a lot of automatic aid within our own community and even the next community over. So it was think nothing of having, multiple chiefs at the command post from other departments or within our own town to be able to deploy in command positions like accountability, safety, operations, or just another set of ears for your radio just for that reason. Or being able to take a chief officer and put him up on the second floor to basically, oversee the crews working there. And that was his job, to coordinate and call back to command to, request additional resources or give you an update. So you weren't talking to a lot of people on the fire ground, you were talking to a few, which made it a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I brought to the table, and that's, if you look at the Hardy Terrace fire that we had back in January, the Newbury Fire Chief was on my left, and he was on our regular frequency. I was on the fire ground frequency. He was the second set of eyes for me, and he answered everything for me on our main frequency. And I was there on the fire ground working with the guys inside, communicating with them. I had the Groveland chief was our accountability officer. The West Newbury chief was the rapid intervention team chief officer. So if we had to deploy the rapid intervention team, he was gonna handle that for me. So it was nice to have, and that's what I work with. And again, I tell them, if I have a fire, come on down. It's an open invitation. Don't be bashful. And we have that working relationship. Those were built because we know that we can't do this alone. And it allows.
You need platoon leaders.
Right. And we also, it allows me to have my officers inside working with our people, taking the interior, instead of keeping them outside and say, I need you to do this, 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 and this. Or overload myself, trying to manage 3 different aspects of an incident: accountability, the operation, safety, so.
Now, Georgetown has two firehouses.
Yep.
We have the Central and Erie
Yep.
Ford.
Yep.
Now, is there, how can I say, dovetailing there, cooperation there?
Oh, yeah.
Or,
Yep.
I mean, is it, are these two houses autonomous, like from each other, or?
No.
No, okay.
No. Well, basically, the way it works is we have an agreement in place that we work with the area.
Mhm.
And as have said since day one,
Mhm.
the Georgetown Fire Department is one fire department with two fire stations, not two fire departments within the town.
Good. Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of people realize that what Erie brings to the table is a cost savings to the community, because they provide a station for us, and they provide apparatus and some equipment. Some of the equipment on the trucks are ours, town equipment, but some of it is theirs, that they own. So when you look at that, you know, they're an important part. And my overall vision for the future, they're a very important part
Mhm.
for this town.
We're in that part of town.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and,
And they have an ambulance.
well, not yet,
No, not yet, but
we're working on it.
Okay.
We're looking at the big picture.
Thanks.
Thank you, take care, guys.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, okay, wrap it up.
Well, now,
I'll be here until the cows come home, right?
now, the
but-
bottom line question is,
Yeah,
do you attend the Erie Ford dinners?
yes, I do,
Okay.
and when I can make it, when I can make it. I always buy a ticket, even if I can't go, I always buy a ticket, so.
Okay, Chief.
But for the record, I do have a meeting next week, next Thursday night with Erie folks,
Mhm.
their board of directors and my two officers that are, officers in my department are members of the area to talk about,
Mhm.
you know, what the plan is to replace engine 4, which is 24 years old.
Is that, engine 4, is that?
That's the Erie truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Engine 4, Erie 4.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, no, we have a meeting next week to talk about, because that truck is now, it's 24 years old, next year it's gonna be 25, so it's,
Is that the magic number?
usually about 25 years,
Yep.
yeah, for a
Okay.
pump, you know,
Yeah.
20, 25 years, depending on the work. So, but I will tell you, it happened Monday afternoon, and it happened 2 weeks ago. We had a couple of car fires over on 95, first due, engine 4, because they went out, because it was on the southbound side, so they
Yeah.
went out through Newberry, came down the highway, where we came out 133, had to go up and
Yeah,
make the
turn
big
around.
loop,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that truck it was first doing a fire on Charles Street a few years ago, pumped the fire, yeah. So, yeah, it's done some work. I love that truck, because we had a
So now
92.
what happens to her when the new truck comes?
Our new pump that we have coming next year,
The one that, to replace, engine 4?
what happens to that truck?
Yeah.
That's up to the area folks.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they own the truck, we don't.
Ah, do you think they'll donate it to Santa?
They use it to drive.
Yeah, they
Santa
use it to,
around.
yeah.
Oh, do they? Is
Yes,
that the
they
one?
do.
Oh,
Yes, they
okay,
do.
all right.
Yeah, but the.
So its avocation will become its vocation.
Yeah, well, they basically, I'll be notified by the area association to let me know on these Saturdays, you know, the truck's gonna be out of service because they're doing their annual Santa, which is fine. I mean, it's part of the
Great
community,
fundraiser.
absolutely.
Because I always wondered,
Yeah.
you know, like, gee, what happens if the gong goes off?
Yeah. Well,
You
as
plan for it.
yeah, we plan for it. You know, we would just tap a mutual aid engine
Yeah.
from a neighboring community. I mean, and again, it doesn't happen all the time. That's Murphy's Law, kicks in.
Mhm.
You know, it happens. You know, I'll be honest with you, I've been down a pump since last July.
Put a muzzle on him.
You know, but I've run this town with two pumps and a ladder. And the trucks are holding up.
Yeah.
You know, and our engine 1 is doing a lot of work because engine 5 went down, so.
Okay.
Well, I guess we have to, I need to be quiet.
Just let me wrap up by saying thank you for having me. I always look forward to coming here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I look at this as, you know, educating and keeping you folks abreast of what's going on, and also just any questions that you have, but also at the same time, you educate me on your time here in town, your history, it gives me a little more knowledge of this town, you know, how things work and how it used to work, and just to let people know is that we're constantly evolving, and people don't like change. I don't like change. Nobody likes change, but
Well,
we have to change.
continuity is important.
Right, absolutely.
And the history doesn't go away, but becomes very worthwhile, I think, certainly as reference points, because it
Absolutely.
remains,
Yep.
hopefully so, part of the continuity.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
said I was going to show. Well, you're
Thanks,
welcome,
John.
and thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you, appreciate it, thank you.
Yep. Fire month.
Yep, absolutely.